All right. Hey, thanks everybody for joining. So I'm Nate Hamilton, one of the co-founders of Distractive. So this is, I think this is the 5th episode we're doing. Yeah, call 5 of Decentralized Mic, where we bring a variety of contributors together, teams, projects, independent contributors who are all Polkadot aligned and doing different things in the ecosystem. And so today is going to be focused on gaming and DeFi spotlight. So we've got a great panel today to discuss a variety of things across that. So we've got I'll do a quick intro and of all three, and then I'll ask folks to kind of give a little background on themselves. So we've got Nicholas from Velocity Labs, we got Gautam from Block Deep Labs, and we've got Angie Dalton, or Angela Dalton, if you want to be formal, from Dot Play and Signum Capital. So I'll give you each a minute or so to jump in and introduce kind of team, what you're up to, what the focus is for the Polkadot eco, and then we can jump into some discussion. So why don't we start in reverse order? I'll start with Angie. Do you mind giving an update to the crew?
Sure. Yeah, definitely. So just to give a little bit of just a quick background on me, traditional finance background, and mostly focused on gaming, always focused on technology, and started, so co-founded the Evercore Equities business, was at Guggenheim, UBS, kind of, traditional places. And then I started Signum Growth with the idea of focusing specifically on emerging technologies within video games, the first of which was crypto and blockchain. So really I met some of the founders of Polkadot very early on, and saw that Polkadot had the capability for long-term sustainability and being a future-proof tech. So kind of went on these separate paths, invested in several large gaming companies and small gaming companies, including Mythical at the time, which has grown a lot, obviously. And now building Dot Play, which we're really excited about, which is a games publisher in the Polkadot ecosystem, which I'm sure we'll get into later. But we're completing a series of really, really exciting content deals and technology deals. So I'll leave it at that for now.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Gautam, I'll let you introduce Block Deep.
Thank you, Nate. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me here. So I'm Gautam Dhameja, founder of Block Deep Labs. We are a services company based in the Polkadot ecosystem primarily. One of our first projects was Mythical Games Parachain, which we recently helped build and launch and migrated all of the data, like all those spikes that you see on the Polkadot transaction charts. Well, that's us. We are also working with several other teams in the Polkadot ecosystem, helping them with their code reviews, providing them support on the technology side, and also basically advising them on how to build in Polkadot. And going forward, we are also going to focus more on building some of the tooling and infrastructure in the Polkadot ecosystem. So that's what Blockdeep is up to these days. Thank you.
Cool, very cool. And last but certainly not least, Nico, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hey everyone, pleasure to meet you. Thank you very much for the invitation. So yeah, Nico here. I've been in the Polkadot ecosystem already for close to 3-4 years. Always on BD and DeFi specific roles. Started my Polkadot career at Akala, doing ecosystem development, and then I was head of DeFi at Parity Technologies for around 2 years. At the end of last year, we decided to co-fund Velocity Labs. We did think there was a kind of an interesting opportunity in sitting between parachains and Parity, and kind of providing the support for specifically DeFi teams building on the Polkadot ecosystem. So Velocity Labs is in a mission to make building DeFi products on Polkadot great again. And we do that through 2 main work streams. One is infrastructure and DeFi BD. So we are the first line of defense for any team looking to build any type of DeFi smart contract application or parachain on the Polkadot ecosystem. And we're also trying to fill the infrastructure gap for Polkadot. And then on the second work stream is product building. So we're currently focused on building tooling around interoperability, specifically Turtle. It's an app that makes it easy for users and also parachain devs to enable cross-chain transfers all across the Polkadot ecosystem and also from Ethereum into Polkadot.
Very cool. Very cool. So why don't we we'll tie threads together between DeFi, gaming, building as we kind of go. But as you just kind of introduce kind of what you do, Nico, why don't we jump into that a little bit? Like, give me a sense for what is the DeFi ecosystem? What's the stablecoin eco right now in Polkadot? What are some of the interesting things that you've been working on that you'd love to let the community know about?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, starting for like where we are at the moment, and also I think that was kind of the genesis idea of us funding Velocity. The DeFi ecosystem, I think, didn't meet its expectations when you go back to when Polkadot launched, and actually a lot of the initial parachains were focused on DeFi. And if you look at the main metric, of course, being TVL, that's definitely a metric that the Polkadot ecosystem, when you compare it to the size of it, the dot market cap, and the amount of teams building, it's still very, very lackluster at around 200 million when others are north of 500 billion. So that's kind of where we are, and that's where we kind of looked at the ecosystem and saw where the pain points were. And we identified that most of the pain points were basically around two things. One, lack of accessibility into the Polkadot ecosystem. If you think about like how to get a user from Ethereum or from a bank account in any part of the world into a Polkadot application, it's still kind of a very frictioned user flow. And we were just lacking those on and off ramp routes. We were lacking the bridges to bring that liquidity into the parachains. So we're working a lot with a Snow Bridge to kind of facilitate that user flow from Ethereum into any parachain. We're working with the Binances, KuCoins, Coinbases of the world to make sure that we have ample support for stablecoin rails, again, coming into bank accounts, credit cards, debit cards, into any parachain on Polkadot. And then the other piece is the lack of infrastructure, which again, Velocity has done a lot to fill in that gap. So infrastructure in this sense of the world, it's basically custodians, oracles, indexers, et cetera, all of those necessary pieces that are needed for liquidity to actually flow in and out of blockchain ecosystems. So that's kind of where we are. We're in this transition where we're making a lot of advancements on the things that we saw were gaps into bringing liquidity into Polkadot. And I think we've already seen the result in the numbers. One metric that we look at very closely is stablecoin issuance. So when we launched Velocity, I think native stablecoin issuance was around 5 to 10 million of native USDC and USDT. And fast forward until today, we have close to 80 million in stablecoin issuance. It's still a bit of a drop in the bucket when you look at the 125 billion in total stablecoin issuance, but definitely a lot of progress in whatever it is, 8-10 months since we started really working on this. And that has really translated in a lot more traction to the existing parachain teams that are focusing on DeFi. So you look at Hydration, for example, one of the leading DEXs and DeFi blockchains on Polkadot, they have increased their TVL almost 2 or 3x, of course, accompanied by a liquidity incentive, which we also help support. But you can see how liquidity just flows a lot more easier. And we're looking to continue to attract more interesting teams that are looking to build either Solidity smart contract applications or parachains focused on DeFi use cases, now that we're having like all these infrastructure pieces in place.
Cool. No, it's great. No, it's great to hear. I mean, I think it brick by brick, you have to build it. It doesn't all happen at once. But I think it's great to see the progress you guys are making. So good on you there. Gotcha. Some of the things that he touched on, I think probably are things that you're also working on, just from an infrastructure perspective, from a tooling perspective. What's the state of building in Polkadot? What are some of the things that you're excited about or that your team's working on?
Sure. So I'll start with essentially where we came from. So our team has been, part of the delivery services team at Parity before. So we were working on helping the Polkadot ecosystem team since more than 3-4 years now when we started this team at Parity. And then earlier this year, we spun out and created Block Deep Labs. So essentially, the mandate is making Polkadot accessible to everyone. In terms of like builders or the users as well. Like generally there is there is definitely a learning curve, and we want to make sure how we can make that learning curve as smooth as possible for new builders, for anyone who is like trying to create a parachain, because our understanding is a parachain is just not a chain or an app. It's a whole company in itself. Like, you have your essentially the nodes, the development, then you have marketing around it. You have to create the architecture. You have to create the integrations and all of that stuff. It's a whole village around a parachain, and we want to make sure how we can support each and every member of that village from our side. So that's the mandate. It's a high level mandate that we have. And then the other where we started is, first of all, we thought, why don't we just do it before telling others how to do it? So we did it with the Mythos parachain. So our first project was essentially getting started from there. There was a private Ethereum chain at Mythical Games. We made sure that we built the exact same functionality with more optimizations on Substrate in a parachain. And we brought over all of those assets, all of the millions of NFTs and users on this new chain. That was our first project. We finished all of that work in September this year. In parallel, what we have been also doing is we created a Polkadot treasury proposal, and the community trusted us with providing some of these services to the ecosystem. So we have so far reviewed 20 teams end to end, what kind of code people are building in the ecosystem, what are the basic pitfalls that are there, how can we make them better for people. We are coming up with a end-to-end Substrate best practices guide probably next week itself. We are also providing additional services to these teams who we have reviewed. And we are now, based on these learnings, the whole point about providing these reviews was to make sure, one, these teams can improve their code quality so that, when they launch their chain in production, it just works, right? Like, there are no hiccups, there are no chains getting bricked, or, there is no 911 being called at late night at parity to, help them unbrick their chain. We wanted to make sure that everybody's building in the right direction. That is done. But now what are the learnings? How can people in the future also, learn from those mistakes? And this is where we are publishing this whole best practices guide. And then in addition, what we are working with is there are a few more integration, or you can say collaboration projects that we have coming up in the future, where either we are building some integrations between parachains and enterprise systems. Essentially, we just recently finished one of our projects. Unfortunately, I can't talk about it because it's still under NDA, but it's a very cool project and being announced very, very soon. We just finished it. And then there are a few other integrations. We are working very closely with the .play team as well in helping them, integrate gaming studios with Polkadot and stuff. So that's what we are up to right now.
Nice. Well, you're making my job easy. You're giving me leading questions to the next panelist here. So, Angie, bring you into the fold here. .play. Obviously, you gave high level on you. Love to learn about .play, the initiatives you guys are focused on, and how you're continuing to kind of push the ball forward with gaming in the Polkadot eco.
Sure, thank you. So, .play has a goal to be the pivotal hub, is what we always say, for gaming in Polkadot, in the Polkadot ecosystem. And there are really three pillars to the hub. I've been trying to figure out a really simple way to describe it, and I think the simple way to think about it is these three pillars are the studios themselves, game studios, the players, and the game developers. Interestingly, pillars 2 and 3, the game developers and the players, are kind of merging in this new kind of wave of gaming, and creators are becoming players. But regardless, it's those three kind of groups that we're speaking to. And then we are building a layer of tech to service all three of these. Because if you think about the way Web 2 works in gaming versus the way Web 3 works in gaming, there is a pretty big gap in the tech. Because the original version of the internet was missing this commerce layer. We always say, we've been saying since we started the company in 2018 that we're looking for new economies in new digital spaces. Enabling those economies didn't really work in Web 2. It doesn't really work in Web 2 in a very seamless kind of, less trust, more truth kind of way. So on the tech side of it, what we're doing is we are integrating with those game studios that are in Web 2 to help them move to Web 3. Then on the player side, we're creating kind of normal gamer player behavior. We're creating technology in the background to allow them to continue to have fun in the same way they've always had fun playing games. And then on the game developer side, we're really just building tools to help them onboard.
Gotcha. It's interesting, and I'd love to hear your take on it. Is like these studios that are coming into Web3. I guess, like, what's the learning curve look like for them? I mean, we had kind of talked a little bit about in preparation for this. Somebody brought up play to earn, and you were like, no, that was like 2021. It's no longer that. It's play to keep, right? Was that the term that is kind of, or playing for
play
keeps?
And when play for keeps is what Mythical kind of named it. Yeah.
Gotcha. So dig into that a little. Like, how has it changed over the past couple of years? Obviously, 2020, 2021, some of the gaming was relatively rudimentary. I'm not offending anybody out there, but if you're bringing real gaming studios into the space, like, what does that look like? What's that hurdle look like? How are things going?
Mm-hmm. So I'll just answer the play to earn question first, just really quickly. Play to earn might still be happening. I just never thought it was a thing because it's more of a crypto thing. And it was just hard for me to get my head around it because people play games for entertainment. It's your leisure time. It's not your work time. And there's a lot of friction in those kind of games that make them not fun. But, so the reason we're really excited about integrating Web3 in the background is we want to maintain the game. We want to maintain the game loops that are really fun and just enable them in the background with Web3 so that people can buy assets and actually own them. They can, check into the provenance of an asset. They can use all of the benefits of Web3, trade assets between each other. And that requires technology that